Hey, Jake.
Hey, we're on the Solex podcast right now. Do you have a couple minutes to talk to us? We have some questions for you.
Okay, I do. Is it okay noise-wise?
Yeah, everything sounds great. All right, so this first question comes in from Steve Boson. After analyzing millions of scans over the years, what recurring energetic patterns have you consistently observed that eventually led you to rethink how health, resilience, and human performance actually work? In other words, what has AOScan taught you about the human body that conventional thinking often overlooks?
Okay, so about the thing I think it's driven home more to me over these years is that it doesn't matter what kind of diet we go on, what kind of medicines we take or therapies we do, if we do not get in control of our emotional state, everything else takes a second seat. So you have a health concern that you're dealing with, but you've got an emotional trauma that you're dealing with, whether it was from a childhood or even as an adult. If you haven't dealt with that emotional issue, everything else you do is like putting a Band-Aid on the thing. And that's what the scans have showed me is inner voice is critical to get anything else physical done. So dealing with the emotions is the number one thing in my mind from what I've seen.
Whoa, okay. Yeah, I feel like Nadia was here a little bit ago, and she said that the number two things that kind of underlie almost, if not all, disease are emotions and inflammation.
Yeah, well, she's right. She's absolutely right. The scanner is really, really good at showing us or indicating where there's physical anomalies. In other words, frequency disruptions. And what I've noticed is if I deal with the emotions, either myself or the clients I've worked with, then all the therapies that we do seem to be miraculous. Where in fact, really what was miraculous was dealing with the emotion. The therapies help the body go through the physical change, but that wasn't even possible until the emotional thing was addressed.
Would you say, Loran, that you didn't realize the extent emotions had, the extent of the effect emotions had on the body until AOScan came to be and you started learning more about things like inner voice and SEFIs and things like that?
100%, Kylie, 100%. I mean, I knew emotions were important, but to be able to see repeated scans and nothing changing until the emotion was fixed, all of a sudden everything it was like a floodgate open and the physical thing just became better. That's the thing that I've learned most from the scanner. You've got to deal with the emotions first.
Emotions can tie to just about everything physical is kind of what you're saying.
Yep.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yep.
We have another question from Melanie Odell here. And she says, I've used homeopathy for years. It's wonderful having remedies inside SEFI. However, what potency are they? Traditional homeopathy can produce, quote, provings, unquote, if remedies are used too often or at the wrong potency. How does SEFI handle this? Okay,
so this is where the AOScan and in particular the SEFI really shine. The AOScan, when you sit down to do a scan, it is literally looking at the frequencies and more importantly, the frequency anomalies or disruptions. From that, if you apply the database from the homeopathics to that, it will then come up and recommend different types of homeopathy remedies for whatever those conditions were. The question that she's asking here is, how do you know which one? And that answers the first one. Second is, what potency? Well, the body, with the frequency disruption, determined which potency, how strong that remedy needed to be from the anomaly itself. So we don't have to have all these different strains because the scanner will determine, based on the frequency disruption, which is the proper frequency strength that needs to come back with the homeopathy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Jen kind of spoke to this before about how it's like a conversation between the scanner and your body, like frequency talking to frequency. So if I understand what you're saying is the scanner responds based on the frequency being communicated by our body with how much frequency to send back. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. And it will determine what the potency needs to be, rather than just a whole bunch of different potencies that you have to go pick.
Well, that probably makes it a lot easier on our database too, to not have to have every potency of every homeopathic ever, but instead just have the frequency of the one that can adjust itself based on what our body specifically needs at that time.
Well, and the thing is, it really does have all those potencies in the database. It just goes through and selects the right one.
Oh.
So we don't have to guess. So it will go through based on the frequency disruption, the anomaly. We'll then say, okay, it resonates with this particular potency frequency, and that's what it puts in. That's why this is so amazing and beautiful, is it just makes the whole art of homeopathy so much simpler.
I feel like that feeds into another question that I saw.
Yeah.
Who was it that said it? Was it Jesse? Talking about like the databases. Do you know what I'm talking about? That question?
Yes, here it is. Thank you for reminding me. So we've got a question from Jessie Morrison, and she asked, where did the enormous AOScan frequency database originally come from? And then she states specifically, what was its original purpose? Was it created for research, medicine, something else? And how were the optimal frequencies determined?
Okay, so an in-depth question, and one that I think needs to be addressed. We've addressed it in the past. The database originated from the Russian space program back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the Russians were sending cosmonauts up to the International Space Station. And they needed to know how to monitor their health, and not only monitor their health, but what could they do if the cosmonauts were dealing with some type of a health issue at the space station. You can't just turn around and fly home and go see the doctor.
That's true.
It was developed in their space crew. It originally, or I don't know originally, but the database, when I came across that database, it had 119,000 data points, okay, which was amazing, overwhelming. And it was down to the DNA and the RNA and the mitochondrial levels of the cell, and then it comes up into the organs. So the database was started for their space program. Obviously, there was research prior to that, and that was never divulged on how they came up with all the data points. I would like to hope that it was morally and ethically done, but you never know. But that database was determined and then given to their space program, and that's how they monitored, and that's also how they learned how to send frequencies back to the cosmonauts at the space station to help balance those frequency anomalies. Okay? So it started with the Russians, and then when we acquired the database from that group in 2008, we worked with that database as it was for probably 3 years, and then we started adding those data points. And at this point, we have a little over 175,000 data points.
Ooh.
So we've added another 50,000, and we'll continue to add as we determine them.
I was going to say, I feel like you're continually adding too. Like that's 175,000 and counting.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that we're continually learning. It's what we've said all along is the AOScan will never be finished, and so we continue to work with it. Frequencies, we're learning so much about the frequencies. In fact, there's a whole documents coming out, declassified from the CIA now, showing that they've known since the 70s, 60s, and 70s, the value of frequency imprint into the body.
Wow. So what you're saying is we're just ahead of the curve. Well, actually, you are just ahead of the curve.
Well, I would like that would be nice if that
Mr.
was
Humble.
true. But anyway, there's a lot of smart people working in this field, and what we're able to do, frequencies are discovered or revealed, we're able to incorporate them into our database, which is open and growing. And so that's where, again, the AO scan really helps, is it just facilitates the ability to use the knowledge that we learn.
Well, Loran, thanks for letting us take some of your time today. And
don't be surprised if we call you again sometime.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye, Loran.
This is Jennifer.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. You're on the Solex podcast. We have a couple questions for you.
Do you have a minute?
Are you phoning a friend?
We are. We totally are. This is from Julie Boyd Jabiro. I have been curious about the hormone section in general. I have no idea, what I'm looking at, what the information means, and what I should actually do with it. I've only heard scan 3 times a day at 3 different times. And that says plus or minus 40 means out of balance. But what does that actually mean?
Okay, these ones can feel or seem a little tricky. So when we're talking about the hormone section, you have there's an understanding that we're talking about an energy or patterns in the body. Because hormones, just like a couple of other body systems, we need patterns. And our hormones fluctuate during the day. So we have to use this device as an informational tool, not a diagnostic tool. So when you're looking at hormones, it's not going to be the same as blood or urine or saliva. We're looking at it from a frequency standpoint. So the fluctuation is when you do the scans for we talk about doing them 3 days in a row, 3 times a day, because we're looking at scanning in the morning, the afternoon, and in the evening, which just gives the scanner a little bit more, it becomes a little bit more familiar with what those hormone patterns are doing. Now, when you have the plus or minus, when you get up to 40, right, there's going to be fluctuation in there. When you get up to the plus 40 or minus 40, then you're looking at it is beyond the value ranges that we're looking at, because not 1 through 5 is perfect, not 5 through 15 is perfect. So we really have some variable there. And then, so when for example, if you scan and you get, let's just say estrogen, for example, estrogen comes up and it doesn't necessarily mean that your human body estrogen levels are low. It just means if you start to see these patterns over time and they are out of this plus 40 or lower ranges, it might be something worth talking to your doctor about, or it might be worth looking at some blood work or whatever that looks like. It's just a tool that's going to let you know that something may be falling out of range or may be out of balance.
Simple question. Anything on ADHD? And then this is AUDHD and how Solex tools can provide support?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, you just said it right there. Like Solex tools, it supplies the support for it. This is not a diagnostic tool. This is not going to take away ADD or AUDHD. This is truly a technology that's going to support the body in many different ways. It can support, when you're thinking about someone with these diagnoses, essentially, oftentimes they're struggling with focus. They're struggling with an overstimulated nervous system. They're struggling with sensitivity to sound, to light, to crowds. They're literally having trouble changing they'll start a task and they're off doing another task. Like they see squirrels, they see butterflies. So this type of technology is really about supporting the body, the nervous system, in ways of the SEFI, in ways of scanning. Maybe it's through diet, maybe it's through emotion, but I think about more of support here than I do think about, and that was the question, right? Like, tools support this. Yes, it absolutely can support this, but it's not going to support it from a diagnostic standpoint. Kind of like the inner voice, right? That is going to help identify some emotional and stress patterns that are going on. So like just even doing the inner voice, talking into the device and then actually listening to the sound feedback can really support someone with ADD or ADHD.
I was going to say, even with like just all the other stuff set aside, the calming benefit of an inner voice and listening to those frequencies. I mean, an ADHD brain to me sounds like it's probably pretty wild, high energy, a lot going on at once. And if you can do anything to just even calm a little bit, I bet that it alone is so beneficial.
Yeah. And, so my niece has ADD, and I love the inner voice for her. I think that it is so powerful. And then, there are the playlists. You can make SEFI playlists, and you can look for frequencies that are like calming or grounding. I remember when I was with her and I was like, how do I calm this child down? Like, I actually put like even some essential oils of like lavender, you can do the SEFIs, you can create the calming playlists, you can do the inner voice. But really when I think about my niece, I think about her little nervous system at the end of the day. I think about that, like I said earlier, the overstimulation.
Yeah.
Like that's sensitive. She'll be like, Auntie, like I am over, like she'll tell me now, I'm overstimulated. I need to go to the car or wherever. She can't be in loud places all the time. So that's when, and I love to actually, for her, I love to take one of her little bracelets and imprint it and then put it on her wrist if we go out and about. Like she was just like sitting with me like, okay, all right, I got this. We got this. And I mean, and that's just to physically watch like the changes happen. Like it's really quite a cool phenomenon.
I love that.
So good. Well, Jen, we had a few more, but we'll have to save them for next time.
I guess we'll just call you randomly one day.
Yeah.
You can phone a friend anytime you need.
Jen, you're the best.